Hey there, this is the right video for you if you have a YouTube channel that's performing poorly, if you feel like you should start a YouTube channel, if you have a story that you want to share, or you're trying to build up an audience and you're not quite sure how to do that. My name is Samantha Evans Schroeder. I'm the grief advocate unedited. I'm an author, speaker, and influencer, and I've spent the last 2 years researching YouTube and trying to figure out the best ways to maximize visibility on that platform. In the next 12 months, once a month, I'm going to share a video with you on the tips and tricks I've learned, and I'm going to share these through Edie Melson's The Right Conversation blog. So stay tuned for a 12-part series on how to grow your YouTube channel and maximize visibility. Most of us have experienced that absolutely terrifying moment when we sit down across from an agent or an editor or a publisher and we hand them our heart. We hand them the book we've written and we invite them to dissect it. My name is Samantha Evans Schroeder. I'm the grief advocate unedited. I'm an author, speaker, and influencer, and today I'm going to talk about who our audience is and being prepared for that question of who is your audience and what are your platform numbers. I'm going to help you get through that conversation, but I'm going to do that in a way that you don't expect, because what I want to do is open up to Matthew 11 and read 28 through 30. And remind you of who your audience is. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Friends, what would it look like if for our meeting with the agent or publisher, Jesus was across the table from us instead? What would Jesus say to you about your work? Because Jesus is concerned about the heart of the matter. Jesus is concerned about the obedience of sitting down to write a story that he put on your heart. Jesus is not concerned about platform numbers. Jesus can take anything. He can take our loaves and fish. He can take our widow's mite. And he can multiply that exponentially. It's God math. So when we're sitting down, when we're formatting our day, when we're writing our story, when we're editing our story, our biggest concern should be our audience of one. Are we honoring God with our time? Are we honoring God with the words that we're sharing? Because if we are being obedient in sharing the story, then we also need to have faith that God is going to put that story in front of the people who need to hear it. Maybe it's only a blog. Only? There are some blogs that are performing pretty well. Get a lot of views, get a lot of attention. God can do whatever he wants to do with our stories, but he can't do anything with our stories unless they're written. So before I talk to you about audience and catering to a specific social media niche, I want to remind you that God can do anything, and that God can take your heart and he can put it in front of the people that need to see it. There's a balance, and I'm not great at it, between working so that my content is seen by many people and not worrying about the numbers. I do my best, and I fail often, to let God worry about the numbers and to just focus on the task in front of me. That said, let's dive into audience and talk about how we can zoom in on a specific niche to get the best output for your efforts. One of the dreaded questions that an agent or publisher will ask when you sit down across the table for them is, who is the audience for your book? You say anyone and everyone, and anyone who's over the age of 40, anyone who's under the age of 30, men, women. Let me tell you, they want your audience to be specific, but not too specific, because your content needs to be narrow enough that it targets a certain audience, but broad enough that enough people want to buy it. It's incredibly frustrating. Let me tell you something that's going to frustrate you even more. Knowing your audience for social media is more important than knowing your audience when you're presenting a book to a publishing company. Because the algorithms have no grace. The algorithms aren't going to let you skate by with people under 40 or men older than 60. The algorithm for social media platforms like YouTube and Instagram and TikTok is unforgiving. So you need to be very specific with who your audience is and who you're trying to reach. Like, for instance, one adjective and one noun. Can you describe your audience in one adjective and one noun? I mean, there's wiggle room in the word count, but not that much. Infant lost moms, families affected by addiction, beginner soccer players, Christian writers. You have to know who your audience is, and you have to be able to describe them with one adjective and one noun. Because that is who YouTube and Instagram and TikTok are going to funnel your content to. You can't tell TikTok, well, I'm an author, I write everything, I want everyone to see my content. If you have a bunch of authors looking at your stuff, then they're going to put your stuff in front of a bunch of authors. But I'm not writing to authors. And in my case, I'm writing to people who've experienced infant loss, or people who are widows, people who've experienced grief. It's not the same. If you're publishing content for writers, and then you're publishing content about your fiction book, and then you're publishing content about your real life, you're going to confuse Instagram a lot. You're going to confuse YouTube and TikTok. They're not going to know what you want. They're not going to know who you are, and they're not going to know what your message is. They want your message to go to the people who want to hear it. But if you don't know who wants to hear your message, YouTube will not know who wants to hear your message either. This is part of the reason you don't want friends and family to just follow you for fun. For instance, my brother-in-law, Nick, is a golfer, huge golfer, like goes all over the country, all over the world to play golf. It's his thing. If Nick gives me a sympathy follow on YouTube, Nick is a golfer. Nick likes golf videos. So if YouTube says, oh, people like this, like her content, they are going to push my grief content to other golfers. That's not going to help me, because that's not who my audience is. We want our audience to grow organically based on the content we're producing and based on our knowledge and our confidence about who our audience is. Is my hair tie driving anyone else nuts? I'm watching it on this video. Like, I had this idea to put my hair up, and then I didn't. It's getting hot in here. Another reason that knowing your audience matters is because of all the SEO data that you have to input into the video, which I've talked a little bit about and I'll talk more about in the future. Part of the reason that identifying your audience very specifically matters is for the SEO data that you're inputting into the videos. So if you're not specific, your video is not going to get in front of the right people. Now, the good news about this frustrating task of narrowing your audience down to one adjective and one noun is twofold. One, when you go in front of a publisher or an agent, you're going to know exactly who your audience is. I have written this book for beginner soccer players, and they know. It's very cut and dry, it's very precise, and you've already practiced saying it. The other thing about that that's great is that if you are producing content related to your book about that subject, you will build your audience and you will build your platform organically based on the audience for your book. And the audience you're building up will be interested in your book because it all ties together. So when you sit in front of an agent and they say, what are your numbers like? You're like, well, I'm getting 2,000 views every week. I'm getting 6,000 views every week on my YouTube channel because I am posting all these videos about how to dribble and how to juggle and how to maneuver around different people. My daughter's a soccer player. I'm not a soccer player. And my videos are not about soccer. But if you say, I am writing this content based on this, and I'm building up my following and I'm building up my numbers because people want to hear what I have to say about this specific topic, you become an expert on that specific topic, and then people go to you, then your numbers will be what they need to be for the publisher and for the agent. That makes sense? I know I'm preaching to the choir in a lot of this, but the reason agents need your numbers to be high is because publishers need your numbers to be high. They can't sell you to a publishing company unless it's a thing. Does that help? So your homework assignment today, ladies and gentlemen, is to narrow your niche down to one adjective and one noun. And as you do all these things, give yourselves a pat on the back because you are being obedient to Christ. You are getting your message out there to the world, and you are sharing his message, his good news, with the people who see your content.